What is going on? I'm going to be doing part 2 of what if I was an MHA, and I have one disclaimer before this video starts, about my character design. So he's gonna look like Bakugo's hair. He's gonna have the hair of Bakugo. He's just gonna look like Bakugo with black hair and black eyes. So, and with a UA wearing stuff on. He's not gonna be like some curly dude with curly hair like I do. So yeah. So it starts off. We left off in the what if right before the test, where the hero versus villain test. So we start off with the hero versus villain test. The teams are Ojako Uraraka and Izuku Midoriya versus Katsuki Bakugo and Tenya Ida. And people are like, oh, I thought usually some people put the character that they're actually adding in, putting them on Midoriya's team. Well, screw that. Yeah, sorry, buddy. So Midoriya immediately activates One for All full cowling and slams Bakugo's face into the wall, then kicking him to Uraraka. Uraraka takes off his gravity and ties him up immediately, and Bakugo is furious. So he starts to explode and explode and explode all of his power. But then All Might comes in and neck chops him and says, "Young Bakugo, you're out." I didn't want to do this, but looks like it had to come to this. So it had to have happened. So Deku ramps up to One for All 2% and speeds up and goes after Ida, trying to go for a big punch on him, but it's caught by Ida, and then Receptro Burst Kick sends Deku flying, but then he lands on the wall, jumps off, goes for a Detroit Smash. So he goes with a punch. Ida dodges, leaves a hole in the wall. Then Deku turns around and then airborne kicks him in the face. Airborne kicks him in the face. So he's basically wrecked. So Deku is basically wrecked. So yeah, Deku does get wrecked because he gets kicked in the arm. With that power, probably would break his arm. Then Uraraka comes out of nowhere, puts zero gravity on Ida, and Deku comes with a Delaware Smash, and flicks Ida right out of there. And then jumps behind him and kicks him right back into a building with a kick smash, sending him right back, because he doesn't want Ida to fall out of the building and die. He kicks him right back in. And then Uraraka touches the bomb, and they pass. The next match is Shoto, Todoroki, and Christian versus another matchup, Kirishima and Sato. So the match starts off with Todoroki wanting to freeze it, and then Christian says, "No, don't freeze it. I want more of a challenge, not some boring match that just ends instantly." And then Todoroki looks at him, trying to scare him. And he's like, "You're not scary." And then Todoroki is like, just stares, and then he says, "Fine then, you can..." Frick, what the heck just happened? So Todoroki just looks at him and says, "Whatever." Says, "You have to do the work then." So I guess my volume was really, really low. So he says, "You do it then." And then he says, "Gladly," and pumps up his energy with dark fire, and says, "It's over." And then he jumps up the stairs. He runs up the stairs with high speeds, and says, "It's over." Looks at Kirishima and says, "This is not your fault. This is just how it is." And then blasts him with huge amounts of fire, burning through Kirishima's armor. And says, "Oh, you too, sugar boy?" Yeah, that sounded kind of weird. He says, "You too?" Guess it's not that hard. Then he puts a fireball into his hand, crushes it, then absorbs the fire, and then says, "Bye." And then fire blasts him out of the door and says, well, that was easy." And he says, "You too," and then he touches the bomb and says, "Done." And yeah, Bakugo is pissed at these two. He's like, what? How did they get that strong? And then whatever. So next we see a couple of weeks. They go to class every single day and do their training. And next they go to the UA sports. No, I'm kidding. That's not yet. They go to the next place. I forgot what that place is called. I think it's called like the USJ. So they're on the bus, and Bakugo is angry. He doesn't even want to talk to him. He doesn't even want to see Midoriya. So when he sees him, he immediately charges up an explosion. Then he feels a little bit of a burn on his arm and says, "What the?" Says, "Back off, dummy. You're weak." And Bakugo charges his explosion to his face, and then he says, "I've already got you right in your heart. You might not want to move." And Bakugo's like, and then he's like, and then he pulls his hand away, because he knows that an explosion to the face won't do a lot, and a fire blast to the heart will definitely kill him. So of course they arrive, and all villains come in, and Deku's like, "Hell nah, to the nah, to the nah." So Bakugo says, "Chine!" And Aizawa immediately erases his quirk and says, "Get back, Bakugo." And then Todoroki's like, maybe he'll actually be able to prove himself. So Todoroki starts to freeze everyone on the battlefield. Except, of course, for his comrades. So Todoroki starts to freeze everyone, while Bakugo is, charging up in a huge explosion. So Bakugo's just running around holding his explosion until he finally is ready to explode the entire villain army while Aizawa's dealing them. Deku just keeps on shooting and shooting and shooting his Detroit smashes. He keeps shooting those Detroit smashes, destroying, absolutely destroying, absolutely wrecking every single one of the villains. Then Shigaraki comes when he's about to punch. Shigaraki comes out of nowhere. He's about to hit him. Deku ducks, and then Detroit smash him in the stomach, sends him flying up in the air. While Aizawa comes up, because Aizawa's ready to knock out his quirk because he knows he's going to use it. He comes down to Deku with his 5 hands ready to hit him. Aizawa immediately erases, and then Deku comes up and punches him in the face with a Detroit smash, sending him flying. Sorry guys, I keep on cutting. I'm just checking if the viewer leaves or stays. Okay guys, like and subscribe please. So Christian comes out of nowhere and says, "Bye villain," and then charges up a blast, kicks the villain down and shoots it up, then smacks it down and says, "You're done." And then he puts his finger to all his hands up and says, "Goodbye." And then he puts a flamethrower and then he starts burning him. A humongous fire beam comes at the Nomu. And the Nomu is really not that hurt. It doesn't really do a lot. And he says, "What?" And then when the Nomu disappears, he puts his arms up, and then he's hit by the side, sending him flying into a wall. And then Bakugo comes, explodes him in the face, distracting him. Midoriya with a 10% Detroit smash, hitting the Nomu up. Actually, it actually pushes him this time. Usually, it wouldn't do crap to a Nomu. So he jumps up and says, "Kick smash!" and kicks him in the face, sending him flying. And then, out of nowhere, Bakugo comes right behind Deku with a big explosion that he's been charging up, and lets it rip. He lets it rip. Okay, that sounded like a fart. Just to clarify, that wasn't a fart. He rips his gloves off and says, "Die!" And then, no, he doesn't say die, he says, So then Bakugo explodes him. That hurts a lot, because that was 20 minutes of charging up an explosion. That was probably the biggest explosion Bakugo has done And that tires him, because he had to gain so much sweat for that. So Bakugo is strained. Then Todoroki freezes the Nomu's feet, and then goes for a big ice punch to the face. It's caught, he's spun around, and sent flying by the Nomu with a punch. Now usually this would have killed Todoroki, but Todoroki puts up a little ice wall that protects him a little bit, but then the Nomu breaks through and sends him flying. So he now goes and says, and then he gets knocked out. Now Deku goes for a big Detroit smash. Boom. Sent him flying. Sends the Nomu flying into the wall that Christian is. And then he goes, I'm not done that easily. He puts out his hand and says, Fireball! And puts it in his hand, and then he throws it at him, exploding the Nomu before All Might. And Ida is already going to get All Might. So Deku runs up and Detroit smashes him through the glass. And then Christian says, this is revenge for punching me into a wall. And says, full power, fire blast. Ah! And then says, you better die, you son of a bitch. And then kills the Nomu right there and then. Shigaraki is there, just confused at what the heck just happened to a Nomu. Right before he gets punched by Deku, he's taken away by Warpy Boy. Or as Bakugo would say, that Warpy stirred. Yeah, I can't swear. I'll just do the half-read words. So then Bakugo punches him in the face with a gauntlet and knocks him down with a gauntlet. Knocks Shigaraki down with a gauntlet. And then tries to explode him, but it doesn't do a lot. And then Todoroki freezes him. Deku kicks him in the leg, knocking him down. And then Bakugo puts his hand on the side of I forgot the dude's name. I forgot the Warpy Boy's name. Whatever, Warpy Boy, Warp Dude. What was his name? I forgot the dude's name, but I'm just gonna continue. Bakugo explodes him, and then All Might appears, and then Shigaraki escapes with the Warp Boy. So yeah. So we just see that. That's pretty much it. So before All Might even arrives, he sees that the Nomu is dead. The Nomu is burnt to a crisp. And he's actually incinerated. He sees the ashes of the Nomu. He sees Shigaraki on the ground. He sees a portal open. Then All Might blitzes it, ready to punch. He punches through it, but then his arm is cut. It's really hurt. He's like, what the? He says, and then a face sticks through without eyes. He says, hello, All Might. And then the warp gate closes. And All Might is shocked. He's like, all for one. All for one, and All Might is pissed. He's like, damn it, why wasn't I here earlier? If I just came along with them, I could have stopped this mess, and then I wouldn't have to, and then All for One wouldn't, actually, wait a minute, and then All Might thinks, if I killed Shigaraki, All for One would come and kill my students. When I'm not active, because All for One is the only one who knows my secret, besides any other teachers, or anyone I trust, or even young Midoriya. So they all leave in the bus. They leave, and Christian is pissed at what just happened. He was embarrassed by a weak Nomu. He is angry. So is Bakugo, because he is super angry. He's like, are you serious? They're angry that they didn't get a shot at the Nomu at that well, even though Christian killed it. He says, I hate this. Then he goes off to train for a couple of days. There's like a couple of weeks time skip before the for the UA Sports Festival. So it's in class, and then Aizawa announced about the UA Sports Festival. Everyone's entering. And then Aizawa was like, "Where's Christian?" And then he busts open, and then he opens the door and says, "Hey." And then he says, "You're late." He says, "Well, I was training. I was trying to master my quirk, and it didn't work as well as I thought. But I mastered a lot of it, and I've learned a lot new techniques to use with it." So, I say that's a win in my book. So, the UA Sports Festival happens, and it's real. Also, yeah, I forgot to say, no one, after what Deku did, everyone knows and doesn't think he's a quirkless loser. Doesn't think he's a loser anymore. Christian doesn't hang out with the Deku squad. Sorry, Christian, you don't hang out with them. Because you just don't even care anymore. You've changed. He's changed since they were kids. He's no longer the same person. He's all about becoming a hero and surpassing everyone who goes near him. He hangs out with Todoroki. These two have mutual respect, not friends at all. And yeah. So after this, yeah, the UA Sports Festival happens. The first thing is getting through the race. Bakugo immediately starts exploding. Mineta starts bouncing on his balls. Not literally. Don't judge me. That's kind of weird. That was also kind of weird. That's the weirdest quirk, honestly. So Ida is speeding past, and Todoroki is sliding on ice. And Christian says, "Pathetic. You still haven't learned to do that, Todoroki." And then he jumps up and uses fire to blast him through. And he says, "Please, I'd like to see you try." Deku activates One for All 5% because he's actually unlocked that without straining himself too much. And he is tied. And he says, "What happened?" So then he says, "I'm gonna add more fire to this. Maybe that'll help." So he blasts even farther, beating Deku in 5%. Todoroki makes his ice a little bit taller so it might spike him. He creates a fire barrier below him that blocks the attack and says, "Nice try, Todoroki." Then he puts even more fire, and the fire is literally bigger than ever. And then the fire goes forward and he says, "Let's keep on going." Deku, break, I just dropped my phone. So he's speeding past and he says, "Let's go!" And then he pushes forward even further. And he wins first place. Deku right behind him. Legitimately right behind him. Bakugo third, Todoroki... Actually, Bakugo fourth, Todoroki third. So yeah. So the teams actually are. So we start off with the new... So now for the team... for like the flag teamship thingy. So everyone is teaming up. Christian goes with Midoriya and Ojako. Pretty sure you only need a 3-man team. I'm pretty sure you need a 4-man team, actually. And one more person. They grab Tokoyami. Yeah, they don't use that engine girl. He says, so they all team up. It's Christian, Ojako, Deku, and Tokoyami. So it starts with Midoriya on the top, of course. Christian on the bottom saying that he can do this himself. Grabs onto Midoriya. He says, "Midoriya, hang on." And everyone grabs on. He says, "Prepare for liftoff." He puts his hand behind him and charges a giant fire wave, and then flies up to the top, and says, he says, "Yippee-ki-yay." But he doesn't say the F word. He just says, "Yippee-ki-yay." And then he throws down a fire blast, a fire wave that incinerates 2 teams, knocking them unconscious. And then he goes and spams his fire and goes and jets straight down. Nobody's hanging. Midoriya's barely hanging on, and snags those 2 helmets, and says, "Well, guys, this is the end of the video.